With me today is Jesse Boudreau. He is a herbaculturist. He's a herbalist. He's a breatharian. He follows a very interesting lifestyle with respect to being one with the earth. He's been practicing these practices for a long period of time. And today we're going to kind of dive into his journey. So is there anything you'd like to add to that, Jesse?
Uh, uh, just that I'm human, just like everyone.
He's just a regular dude. Now, one of the things I love about doing these things is that sometimes I do IG lives with people that I don't know, and we develop rapport. And then there's other times where I do IG lives and people become friends. And Jesse happens to be one of those individuals, so that's always a privilege and pleasure and honor. So, Jess, today I want to really talk about your journey with respect to Breatharianism, sun gazing, and grounding. Let's start with the sun gazing aspect of stuff, and maybe you can give everybody a little overview of the benefits, how you started and built up to a certain place, and where you kind of practice now, but also some of the individuals that you looked up to in terms of being mentors.
Cool. Yeah, one of my favorite subjects is just the sun. It's so fascinating. So the health benefits are multiplicitous. A lot of people have become hip to this, via Andrew Huberman, and I forget, there's a surgeon out there who's really hip to the light thing. And what it's about is that your mitochondria run on energy, correct? So that can be supplied by various forms. The sun is the greatest form of energy. So it will reset your circadian rhythms. I find it clarifies the mind, as my hero HRM talks about. The eyes are the windows to the soul.
So reference HRM is who?
I think it's Hira Ratam Mantak, I think is the way you pronounce his name. Right. He was an Indian fellow who sort of brought back the ancient practice of sun gazing. It's something that's in all cultures around the world, but particularly he was stemming from the yogic practice of sort of sun yoga. And he is the longest observed breatharian, medically observed. He spent 411 days under medical observation.
So he's that guy. I was wondering who that guy is. Give us his name again.
I think it's Hira Ratam Mantak. Yeah. Okay. But if you look up HRM and sun gazing, you can find his lectures and stuff. And my original into it is just consciousness exploration.
Right.
So one of the attributes that they found when they studied him was that actually his pineal gland was about the size of a golf ball versus the size of about a peanut. So this has potential applications for consciousness expansion with, I think the pineal gland and the pituitary gland are basically our direct line to cosmic consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
And staring at that sun is a sort of an obvious reflection of that. So you actually have more mitochondria in your eyes than in anywhere else in your body. And they can absorb that light and utilize it in the electron transport chain for energy. So,
right. So let's talk a little bit about, this guy was extensively studied, right? Medically studied. And
yes.
He was studied for a period of 400 and some odd days?
Yes. 411
so now,
days, if I recall.
Outside of the sun gazing and grounding, because I think he was a practitioner of both, but was he also fasting at that time?
He is, I don't know that he practiced fasting per se, but he would just not eat. He was a proponent of vegan diets, and particularly raw food. So and this was, I came into this information when I started my raw food journey, which for me was 2010. So 15 years ago, and so he had already been practicing that for a long time. So all these things that we are kind of uncovering are things that are ancient practices that just were obvious parts of natural living. So if you were an indigenous person and you were out in the cold all night and the sun came up, the first thing you'd do would be greet it, get in front of it, feel its warmth on you, and it'd be in your eyes and be on your skin. And that resets circadian rhythms as well.
Right.
Most circadian rhythms thrown out of whack by the blue light and frantic schedules, etc. So, and then the fluoridation of the pineal gland as well. The pineal gland is photosensitive, so light is one of the only things that will break up the calcification from fluoride.
Right. So Philip's actually here. It's if you look up HRM sun gazing, you'll find out who that is. But he had a specific regime. If I'm, please correct me if I'm wrong, about how to build up, and I think that's something you followed. So you want to tell everybody sort of how to start in terms of timings and a time of day, and how your journey went in terms of building up, because I think you built up to about 45 minutes twice a day or something.
Yeah.
So maybe you can describe that, what his prescription for that was, how you developed it yourself, and how you followed it.
Great question, because it's really important, to follow. I think his protocol is really great because it's a very safe way to sun gaze. I think you can sun gaze at all hours and all times, but you have to develop sort of your relationship with the sun first. So he suggests doing it the first hour or the last hour of the day when the sun rays are attenuated by the oblique angle that they hit the atmosphere. And so there's 0 to very little UV in that first hour. That may be difficult for people if you were in a mountainous region or in a city or something like that, in which case you can go out any time but gaze with your eyes closed. And you start incrementally. It's similar to like acclimatizing your body to poison. You start with 10 seconds the first day, and then when you're done, you want to cup your eyes, turn away from the sun and cup your eyes until all the light play sort of dissolves, and you just go back to like black screen, and then you increase by 10 seconds every day thereafter, up to like a year. So 20 seconds the next day, 30 seconds, the following day, 40 seconds. And then, it takes about a year, sometimes more, depending on how many cloudy days and stuff you get. You can sun gaze in the cloud too, but it's not as effective. And then you get to 45 minutes. And then after that, you can just kind of gaze as you would like daily, morning or evening, a few 5 minutes, 10, 20, 30, 40 minutes, an hour. By that time, you kind of develop this relationship with the sun. And
now, you're not gazing directly at the sun, is that correct? I mean, kind of like
are you? I'm gazing.
I've heard kind of like 10 degrees, either north or south or east or west.
That's a practice. You can also do it through your eyelids, like I said before. I think it's important to like adjust. Sometimes I'll start gazing right at it, and I just find my eyelids close. It becomes kind of relaxing. It's very, very relaxing. It's a meditation in a way that what feels like happens to me is that you get these light codes that flow through your pranic system that kind of blow out all of the energetic blockages, relax you. And I remember having this experience when I first started, that I was looking at the sun and my eyes were just tearing, and I was like having emotional catharsis, but I wasn't crying. And I had this very distinct feeling of like this, divine masculine principle, like looking at me like your father or like someone you really look up to, and just being like, don't fool yourself, son. I love you. You don't have to live all those lies and all those thoughts that you have going in your head. Just, feel my love. And it was, I was like coming home. And at the top of 45 minutes, I feel like I had a full, like DMT experience. Momentary one, where I felt just complete connection with the whole universe. I felt my pranic channel in my head open. You have your fontanelle here of the place come together when you're a child, when you're being born, that leaves, there's a hole, that goes through. It's basically your toroidal field. your esophagus and your intestinal tract all follows this hole that goes through your body, so you can receive earth chi from below. We'll talk about that in a minute with grounding, and heaven chi, through your crown.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just blissful. It was just it's up there with me with my first psychedelic experiences, some of my deepest meditation experiences. The birth of my children is just very profound feeling of connection and love.
So now you've been practicing this for how long?
I've been doing sun gazing for about 15 years too.
Okay, so 15 years. So you built up to a place where you were doing it basically 40, 45 minutes twice a day, right?
Just once a day.
Oh, so once a day? I thought you were doing twice a day.
Yeah,
and so are you now, you're still sun gazing, but I gather that the timing's probably, not 44, depending on the day, I guess you're at.
Yeah, it depends. Some days I'm out for 2 minutes, and sometimes I'll be out for an hour and a half. It just, right. I come out if I have time. I just come out with the dog and play with the dog and sit in the sun, listen to the birds, and it's a better way to start your day rather than waking to alarm and frenzy.
Yeah.
To greet the sun first. And I can't even list how many. My brain has gotten so full of all the benefits that happen from this practice that I've kind of dumped a bunch of it. Just know to do it. It just feels
right.
good. Feels right.
Now, we are talking about kind of ancient. We are talking not kind of. We're talking about ancient practices, about how our surroundings, nature, can be a natural healer for ourselves. And grounding, again, is one of these practices, right? And often, if you're sun gazing and grounding at the same time, right? Often.
Yes.
So,
yes.
For those who don't know, why don't you give a little, sort of synopsis about grounding and its benefits?
Okay, I'll try to keep it short. This is my passion stuff, so
no, that's all right. That's why we got you here today. That's why we got you here.
Yeah. So, just to segue momentarily about what I find the practice to be towards breatharianism and Vigu. This aligns also with my study in herbalism, in Ayurveda and alchemy, is a relationship with the 4 elements of earth, wind, fire, water daily. That you do some practice in meditation with those elements. Mm-hmm. So the sun is the fire element, right? Mm-hmm. And the earth is the earth element. And when you're, grounded barefoot, on the one hand, you're absorbing negative ions that are antioxidant. Right. So we're taking all these fruits and things for antioxidants, but they actually come for free from the earth. It's also electricity that's coming from the earth, and that connects our biology to this Schumann resonance. And when you actually can physically ground, it really helps your nervous system, because all of the biology on the planet has always had this Schumann resonance mm-hmm. at low frequency in the background. That's like the hum of the mother. Mm-hmm. So there's also the whole thing of the electrical exchange as you're getting this, these sun rays that are coming through your crown chakra. To be touching the ground allows the flow of energy to be grounded, just like the grounding in your house. So that it's, because the whole thing about Kundalini energy and awakening is that it can be actually physically dangerous.
Yes. Because if your bodysuit isn't in a place where it can contain that energy, it can be quite shocking.
Yeah, there's all the instances of spontaneous combustion and things that happen because your body,
even psychosis and some mental disturbing things. Yeah,
100%. So it's important that you go slow and that you integrate. And we're so used to pushing in our culture to the end product, but the process is a beautiful journey, that you miss out on when you're focused too far on the product, and you can actually kind of screw up the product. By not following the process.
Yeah. What do you think about all these? What do you think about grounding mats and grounding sandals and all of that kind of stuff?
I think it's great. It's not as good as just getting barefoot on the earth or sleeping on the earth. But, our biology is accustomed to that. In the millennia prior to like the last 100, 200 years or so, we were pretty well grounded all of the time. You
Right.
know,
Well, yeah.
our old buildings used to be grounded, made of earth and stone and wood that conduct electricity. We were, touching the earth and working with the earth. You know, so
Well,
it's
the advent of rubber soled shoes and whatever like put an end to that, because even when shoes were leather soled, right, that was still a conduit of energy where rubber's not.
yes, and it's a super important point. That you kind of brought to mind there, of like this whole thing of solar energy. That word is also connected to the word soul.
Mm-hmm.
To be ensouled, that
Mm-hmm.
we have this cosmic life force energy from the sun running through us and through all things.
Mm-hmm.
As Elitom would put it, we're crystallized fire. You know,
Right. Yeah.
so
Now, did you
yeah,
start your practice of sun gazing and grounding all basically all at the same time?
yeah, as well as meditating and raw food. It was all at
It
once.
was all one.
It was a massive consciousness explosion. It was so fun for me. It
And
was like
was
the
there
best part of
something
my
was
life.
there something that was happening in your life at that point in time that kind of just was the impetus of like, significant change?
Oh yeah, yeah. I had been, a businessman and a young father trying to push out and make my business. I was eating all organic, but standard American way, drinking, eating breakfast burritos, all that stuff, uh, abusing porn, all those things that young dumb people do.
Yeah, right.
And you know, I just got to this point where my spirit was wrecked. You know,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and I just needed to reclaim it. I started meditating in high school. When I got interested in the space through, psychedelics, through psilocybin mushrooms and
Right.
cannabis. And my sister told me, you want to get really high? You should try meditating.
Mm.
And I was like, oh, okay. And I really looked up to her. She's like one of my heroes for sure. So we got into it, and I just like, after that, I was really steady with it for about a year, but going into college trying to meditate at 19 just didn't have the focus.
Yeah.
Um, but it came back. It was like, I need this back, and I need my health back, because I was suffering from like gluten and casein issues and just
Mm-hmm.
terrible digestion. And I'd eat something like a burrito, and then I'd be like wrecked for like a couple of hours. Literally, I'd go to work, have this burrito on the way, and then I'd have to tell my crew, just like, I don't even know what to tell you. All I can do is just like roll up in a ball over here. You
Right.
know. So I just had to change. I had to make massive change because I was abusing my consciousness and my body.
Now
And
were you married at the time? Okay, so you have family life, all that kind of stuff happening. Big change, big life change all at once.
hmm hmm yeah,
So
but it was great. It was really great.
yeah,
I'm
no,
glad.
you're a living testament to the change. Now this journey of breatharianism, and let's kind of go on a chronological path of this, because you became a vegan. Uh, were you vegan prior to all of this, or not really?
No, not till 2010 when I made these
Yeah.
changes.
Okay. So you became a vegan, and that's now transitioned into a person who is got an eating window of about 23 hours. I'm sorry, an eating window of about an hour a day, really. All right,
hmm
where you're fasting primarily for 23 hours. Um, Take us on that journey, and did that also start at the same time, right?
Yeah, it pretty much did. I got into HRM. It was this whole consciousness expansion thing. I saw some of those videos from what is it called? The Supreme Master TV. That's where I found Ellie Tom and Ray Mayor.
Mm-hmm.
Was watching their videos intermittently on my raw food journey for like a decade. And I was sun gazing and meditating and all this stuff, but I didn't really have in mind that it would actually materialize for me to become breatharian.
Right.
You know, what my understanding is now is that we all are breatharian, every one of us, but
Right.
there's a practice you can epigenetically cultivate the state. And there's other ways in which the state comes into being, mostly through like religious ecstasis.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I was just interested the whole while I was listening to, David Wolf. He and Dan McDonald got me turned on to foraging and herbalism and fasting. And so I would fast, occasionally,
Mm-hmm.
like a 2 or 3 day juice fast or a water fast for a day, just very intermittently and not too seriously. But what happened for me just naturally was I was, making a smoothie every day for breakfast, and I'd start, and that's a great way to, start this whole pranic journey, just
Yeah.
doing more liquid foods.
Yeah.
Um, but uh, and that smoothie, like at first I would drink it like first thing in the morning. I have my tea and all these things I'd take to work, and I'd take a big honkin' salad full of, Asian greens and nuts and things, and you know, um, and eventually I just was like walking out the door with my smoothie in my hand, like
Mm-hmm.
and still not hungry, you know. And then eventually I got to work and I have my smoothie and my salad, and so I just drink my smoothie and have the salad later. And it just got to the point where I just naturally uh, started to feel less hungry.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to eat as much. Um, and then I got, kind of intrigued by it, and wanting to. My eye has mostly been on consciousness expansion and exploration, but this is one of the byproducts. If
Right.
you take care of your body, you take care of your spirit and stuff, and especially as you age, you just need less, really, you know. So, uh,
Yeah, well, Rockefeller was the guy who destroyed the whole scenario of, it was a planned scenario of 3 meals a day so he could make more money, right? So, I
right.
mean, yeah. Um, I mean,
You know,
I want to add something here because
okay.
people may not know, okay, about you, is that, although Jesse fasts pretty well for 303 hours a day. He has a very active lifestyle. I mean, he's
Yeah.
moving boulders and digging in the ground and doing all sorts of stuff with respect to permaculture. He's not withering away, everybody. I mean, he's a very strong physical specimen, right? So, again, about busting some of these myths.
Yeah. Yeah. No, actually, that is a good point to bring up because that is a vital part of any part of this journey is exercise and some strenuous activity. You know,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
um, it's vital for longevity in general, and just your body is made to move. It's like this really, we're almost like extremophiles, you know, and when you don't use it, you lose it.
Yeah,
So
right. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. Um, One more point I wanted to just add in real quick about the breatharian part is, I also think of that as like, we were talking about fire, earth, and air.
Mm-hmm,
So, I'm kind of sort of divorcing myself a little bit from the term breatharian, though I like it too. I've been sort of adopting Ellie Tom's thing of solaritarian more,
mm-hmm.
uh, because he, pointed out to me one point that earth, wind, fire, and water are all a result of the solar energy. You
Mm-hmm.
know, it's what drives the air currents, etc. But you are a being of breath. You need, the air, and the air is this amazing healing practice. And really, the way to breatharianism, as he would say, and I agree with, is through the cultivation of the chi through meditation, qigong, sun gazing, these
Mm-hmm.
type of things. Fasting just being one of the many arms of practice, you know, and not trying to fast your way into breatharianism, but to cultivate energy, become an energy cultivationist primarily.
I want to ask you a question because this came up yesterday with a conversation I had with Blake about chi and energy and whatnot. Uh, but I want to preface that comment by saying, when you look at the elements of earth, fire, water, and air, these are elements that have been um, these are elements that are inherent in every indigenous culture around the world, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
I mean, the Chinese culture, it's huge, right? I mean, it's these are significant things that have been with us since the beginning of time, right? Now, one of the things about Qi that and you can jump in here and correct me if I'm wrong, but one of the things that I think that I remember studying and reading was that Qi was sort of a limited resource. So you only had X amount of chi in your lifetime, right? Now, I don't believe that to be true anymore. It might have been kind of a historical, ancient kind of writing, but
I think
I think it's a very renewable uh, energy. What are your thoughts on that?
I think what you're thinking of is the three treasures. So
Mhm.
we focus primarily on chi as Westerners because it sounds very mystical and interesting.
Right.
The other two treasures are Jing and Shun.
Hmm.
So Jing is like your genetic fortitude, and it's likened to the wax of a candle. So, we hear this term burning the candle at both ends.
Hmm.
That's basically going so hard in the paint that you're burning your Jing away, and you'll go gray early, you'll die early, you get,
Okay.
disease
Yeah.
early from overexpending your physical energy, your chi, your Jing. And that Jing substance is often also very much connected with your cerebral spinal fluid, which is also your
Mm.
sexual. So the more you can be sexually temperate, the more that oil refines and becomes more potent,
Hmm. Hmm.
So
Hmm.
this is a source of Jing that you can potentize by just, being, you don't have to be celibate or anything, but just temperate,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah. It's like semen retention,
and
right? Yeah.
yes, as much as possible,
Yeah.
save your seed.
Yeah.
It's part of your body. It's literally your life force,
Hmm.
you know. So Shun is the other three treasure, which is your spirit, which is the light that comes off of your flame of chi.
Hmm. Hmm.
So um, there's chi infinitely. Chi is actually everywhere in the Taoist lineage. There's earth chi, there's dog chi, there's grass chi, there's heaven chi,
Right.
there's spleen chi, there's, you know, um, it's just, I think you could pretty well, it's, I think a little bit more mystical than that, but you could almost switch it with the word ATP, you
Right.
know.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's more refined. Our subtle energy and our spirit is something far more multidimensional, but beyond the physical. But it has a physical component of basically mitochondrial function and ATP.
Hmm. Hmm.
So, that thing of the breath, that can also, through fasting and breath, you can create water a little bit. Water being the next element, that's just what's coming to mind. Having a relationship with water, getting in the bath, or getting in a stream, or the water you drink, or the structured water from fruits, that's been, one of my strategies, because the structured water has, exclusion zone with a positive charge on one side and negative charge on the other. So it's part of the body battery conversation. The alkalinity, exclusion zone, grounding, these are all part. You have 50 trillion cells in your body, and they have a potential energy of 0.7 volts every one.
Right.
So you have a potential voltage of 3.5 trillion volts
Yeah.
and run through your body of
Light
chi.
up a lot. We can light up a lot of stuff.
Yeah, we could power a town, you
Yeah.
know.
So,
Yeah.
somebody's just asking about ATP, and ATP is that which fuels the energy of the cell. Do you want to add anything to that?
It's ATP, short for adenosine triphosphate.
I said, yeah, and it's that which energizes the cell.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the mitochondria are the purveyors of ATP.
Yeah.
So,
Exactly. Yeah. So anyway, continue along.
yeah, so just that connection with water and blessing the water, the sacredness of water, that it is, 70% of our planet or more. Same with our bodies.
Same with our
And,
body.
and then there's like most of the uh, matter in the universe is hydrogen, which is a
Mhm.
massive component of water. So there's
Yeah.
this reflection of water, and a sort of just to meditate with all these things, to bless it, to put it in the sun, or put crystals in it, you know, write prayers, like Masuri Moto
Yeah.
style stuff, on a
Yeah.
piece of tape
Water.
and put it on your water bottle, you know,
Yeah.
these kind of homeopathic imprintings that can give you that further structuring, if, depending on the quality of water you're working with. I think that blessing things, we have this power, this soul power to actually bless things. That's why
Mhm.
churches become sacred and sites become sacred, is because we endow it with our sacred energy and focus.
Right. Have you,
So
just as an aside, I mean, have you, and you know Greg Braden because he lives in your area, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And you know his work with respect to the God code and the Kabbalist scenario of, you know, these elements are embedded and have a code, which is the fact that the name of God is inherent in our DNA.
Yes, yes, yes. And that is the sound of the breath too, right? It's like,
Yeah,
yeah. Um, so, uh, and that the code of your DNA is something like uh, God eternal within the body.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, so our potential is so much.
Fascinating stuff that this has been embedded and coded in us from the beginning of time, and everybody, you know, it's like all gone. It's like, hello, yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah. We are so much more than we sort of
have
allow
been led
ourselves to be.
we have been led to believe, or that we even believe ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes, that we believe ourselves totally. There's like I love Greg Braden's work. You know, what's the one? Biology of Belief. Oh no, that's the geneticist Bruce Lipton.
we slipped in
But
also, but all of them hang out with each other.
yeah, but I love that Greg Braden points out every time we make like someone does the next high jump or the next fastest mile,
Yeah,
then just for too long, 2, 3 years later, maybe it's been broken.
yeah.
Like we literally have no limits. We just find a limit and then we just go a little bit past it.
Well,
And I love,
I'm going to make one comment on that before I bring this back on track. But one of the things about
yeah, sorry,
AI,
yeah,
one of the things about AI is what people don't understand is AI is actually very limited to the technology that you have, where the human body is unlimited, and the human body, mind, and spirit is unlimited in its potential to do what it needs to do. We're far superior to AI in so many ways.
far, far,
Yeah,
and AI mainly because the AI will. I don't know that it will be ensouled. You
right.
know,
Yeah,
we
yeah,
shall see.
yeah.
But I don't equate intelligence with sentience or soul.
Right.
You know,
Yeah,
that sort of emotional connective force. You know,
yeah,
that is a natural force.
yeah.
You know, so that's what I seek to cultivate. I think, you know, that's our actual security in the future, not this uh, proxy of technocracy.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a danger there. We have to be aware of it all for sure, right? And but so back on this path of breatharianism and your journey to it, which has been a long time now, because basically you're fasting for 23 hours a day, right? Have you
Mhm.
done? I'm sure you have experienced it, you know, just doing like water only fasts or dry fasting for any extended periods of time.
Done water only fast. Part of my way into breatharianism, I was going to go on a retreat with Ray Mayor. He was very forthcoming. He was like, just come. We can worry about payment later. You know, I thought I would really appreciated his attitude, but I just couldn't pull away from work and family. And I came across Ellie Tom's Breatharianism for the Common Man, and he
Mm-hmm.
himself through his own, you know, sort of initiation. It's not something advisable, but that's what I did, you
Yeah.
know. And the way I did it was epigenetically, in the same way that I've been doing all these practices, was just slowly and small at first and expanding. So my first dry fast I did was 24 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Time I did 36 hours. And then after that, I did 48 hours. And the longest I've done was about 4.5 days. It
Okay. Yeah.
wasn't killer, you know, and I really suggest in working with fasting, don't try to go for the killer 20, you know, super long fast. Go until your body says, okay, back the other way, you
Right.
know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and you got to pay attention to your consciousness too, because you're going to liberate a lot of, you know, a lot of people who die from fasting die from autotoxicity, not
Mm-hmm.
from malnutrition or fasting,
Right.
you know, because you liberate all this stuff that's stuck in you,
Yeah.
you know. Um, and then after that, I committed myself to liquiditarianism,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and did that for uh, a number of years. And then I started to do liquiditarianism combined with intermittent dry fasting. So
Mm-hmm.
dry fasting, 16, 17, 18 hours a day. And then eventually I just was like, I can do this. This seems doable to me and pretty easy. I'm going to try for 23 in liquidarianism. And I did, and I had, again, another one of those instances of one of the most profound sort of explosions of growth, at once, and I was having these dreams that were like more vivid than reality. And, it was sleeping like 5-6 hours a night and meditating for 4 hours, just feeling
Right.
really deeply in myself, and it was really beautiful. It was really nice to be. It feels like coming home when you get to do that.
Now, when you're talking about liquidity, are you doing a variety of different types of juices along with water, or just water?
No, for that time, I've mostly been doing fruit juices, our superfoods from
Yep.
Purium,
Yep.
tonic herbal teas, from Chinese, because the Taoists actually are one of the oldest, systems that actually talk about breatharianism and how to do it.
Right. Right.
And part of that is through these herbs that develop the three treasures. So
Okay.
I work with those, and various herbal tinctures and stuff I make, and let me see. Oh, and then I usually would do like a chocolate elixir kind of a drink, nut milk elixir, and that was pretty steady. What I had for a number of years. Eventually, I started to bring in like seaweed snacks or a little bit of like lettuce with a nut dressing or something, just to have something salty.
Yep.
And in the last 3 months or so, I've gone ahead and opened up to having more solids, but I'm still hovering around 80-85% liquidarian.
Right.
And that's
And
mostly just
still within that 1 hour of eating window.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I just felt the need, is like,
Yeah.
I kind of got bored. I got bored is what it was. When you just drink liquids all the time, sometimes, and everyone's eating like all these, like, you see everyone's Instagram with their raw, delicious creations and everything, and it's like, okay, I'm gonna have some.
Yeah. Good for you, man. Good for
Yeah,
you.
just gotta
Now,
have it out. I want to
did
be.
you when you started incorporating some of these, did you find any changes in your physiology? In other words, was there any sort of backlash or?
Yeah, minorly, just a little less energy, a little less, I don't know. I felt a little more grounded, which was probably good. I think I'd actually pushed out a little hard, and needed to, because that's what I suggest with my coaching clients, and it's really because it's been my process, is this hormesis activity, whether you're fasting or whether you're lifting weights or whatever, you want to have the push out, and then you gotta retreat, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and through that, first you have these big swings, but ideally you're going to get to this like ticker tape up and down, just barely, but mostly going up, So I
Now,
feel that.
do you adjust anything that you do with respect to season?
I do. It gets pretty cold here in the winter, so I
Yeah.
will have more like broths or even some blended soups,
Yeah.
warm them up, because I was doing all hard in the paint, all raw, juices and stuff. I'd put on like 3 jackets and I'd be like, oh, this is good. Oh. So I'm too old for that crap now. I'm just like, whatever. I'll just have some hot soup.
You're a youngster. I mean, what am I going to tell you?
Yeah, I know. I'm shooting to be a super centurion too. But,
I love that. I love that.
Yeah,
I love that.
yeah.
So, in terms of all of these practices, I mean, your advice is really quite simple in one respect, right? Start small, baby steps, build in, don't go crazy, right? So, in a sense, you're building up a resistance and an energy to the energy that's coming in, right?
I remember just when I started switching to raw food, there's such a pranic shift when you get that fiber and water in your body, and you start to cleanse and detoxify your cells and your adipose waste and stuff like that, the channels open up, and you're getting biophotons, and, everybody talks about who makes the transition to raw, it's like, oh man, my energy went through the roof. I feel clear-minded. I feel good, And it's, really the name of the game is this ATP, the energy, the chi or electricity flowing through us. And I'm finding more and more a big part of this is really just regulating your nervous system so you don't get whacked, blow your energy out, getting pissed about this or getting worked up about this excited thing you want to do, or,
Yeah, the other thing is,
trying to
don't,
do.
I was saying this to Blake in a podcast we did, is that don't beat yourself up. Look, we all are going to have fluctuations. There's going to be things that irritate us. There's going to be things that perhaps make us angry. It's about identifying them, sitting in them, letting them go faster than you would have when you were 20, 30, 40, whatever it might be, right?
Yeah, just give yourself room and don't gaslight your feelings. Whatever's
Yeah.
coming up has a valid basis somewhere.
Hmm.
Search for that. See what emotions are in you that need addressing. That's what I see it as, is like a symptom, just like in disease, a symptom that there's something that you need to attend to here.
Yeah, I did
So
something. I posted something the other day, which was really around the premise of light and dark, and many of us have been brought up to shy away from the dark, right? To think that that's a bad thing, but the reality is, to move through any issues, fears, obstructions we have, we actually have to learn to sit in the dark deeply and identify, the source of what may be causing this discomfort or unawareness, whatever. But you have to sit in it because that's where the light comes from.
I love this thing from demonology in alchemy, that is like your demons aren't evil, they're part of yourself that you haven't given love and light to.
Yeah.
So it's just like festering in the dark.
Mhm.
And I'm really fond of the Tao, that is this whole teaching, around basically no judgments. There's something that we deem dark as just our particular, you know, uh, distinction about it.
Mhm.
So a cat to a person is a lovely, cuddable, snuggly little enemy, but to a mouse is an evil man-eating monster.
Right.
Is
Yeah,
evil, right?
yeah, yeah,
So there's energies at play, that are bigger than us, and none of them are like. I don't think. I don't. I'm starting to believe there really isn't evil. There is an interplay of dynamism
yeah,
that cultivates higher states through adversity and trials. You know.
yeah. A Kabbalist premise is that also there is a voice that disturbs us, right? There's a voice that if we allow that to listen, will take us off track. That this voice that can, um, really play with our ego, right? But
Mhm.
it's not something separate from us. It's part of us. It's recognized. Okay, yeah, I hear that, but I'm not buying into it.
Yes, exactly. And it's partly, essentially just the ego being in a body. It has to protect this life.
Yeah,
If you have an infinite soul and you know it, and you're in this body, the body's like, well, what are you going to do with me? Like, don't just throw me out.
yeah,
Um, and so to love the body, to give it what it wants, to feed the ego in positive ways, not in ways that nurture its. There's that whole um, story of the old Native American and the black wolf and the white wolf, and
which will
which
forgive
wolf,
us. Yeah,
which wolf are you going to feed? Which is
yeah,
going to be the one that, so, to cultivate those higher, principles of like love and compassion and integrity and kindness, and, you know, but to just allow whatever's happening to happen and not force. There's so much we do performatively in this culture that really undoes us ultimately, you
yeah.
know.
It's funny because you said the practices, and I understand what you're saying. I'm just going to add to it. The practices of love, compassion, forgiveness, whatever. I don't think they're practices. I think they're innately who we
I,
are.
I agree.
They're innately who we
I
are,
agree.
but we've lost the ability to connect to them, right?
Yeah, and that's what I mean. Is just to focus on it, because whatever you focus on increases. So it
Yes.
doesn't necessarily that you have to cultivate it, but hear words like, I think of also with this thing with breatharianism, and what you consume is like what you consume with your ears and with your
Hmm.
eyes,
Hmm. Hmm.
to absorb those things that uplift you and help you to be go to where you want to go in your life,
Right.
whatever that
Absolutely.
is. And I think we all have a higher source guidance inside of us guiding us through, even though something may seem dark or terrible someone's going through, that might be their soul's, yearning for learning that they come to this life
Yeah.
to experience,
Yeah.
and to not judge it, but to nurture, to care for that person going through that, and yeah, there's so much. I see that with respect to our community around veganism, like all the carnivores, I think, are hurting themselves and hurting, the animals. And that's really my contention, but it doesn't help me to tell them that. You know what I mean?
No, I mean, I think that, look, I had this conversation. I've had this conversation many times. You can't tell somebody what to do. They have to lead by example but through your own actions, right? I mean, nobody reacts well to being told what to do, right?
No, no.
So,
Yeah.
if you want somebody to stand in the light, then you got to shine your light brighter. It's, quite simply that, right? So, uh,
Yes, I agree.
so, I
That's cool.
mean, life is good. You're a phenomenal individual, right?
Thank
You're,
you, Michael.
in the world. I love the fact of you sharing your journey with us with respect to these three aspects, because so much other things you do. How can people get a hold of you?
You can reach me here on Instagram, DM me, or you can find me at Zia Energetics LLC at gmail.com. That's my email, or Zia Permaculture, ZIA, as in the Zia sun symbol.
Okay, and give
Permaculture.
everybody your Instagram handle.
It's pranic_herbalist.
Yeah. So listen, check Jesse out. He's a wealth of information. But not only that, one of the things that I love about Jesse is that, and it's a premise that I believe inherently. It's very easy to say stuff, right? But you only prove that to be true through your actions. And Jesse is a man who has lived through his actions, and that is what the truth is, right? So, and again, you can't shine the light by just saying stuff. You have to do it. You have to be that action-oriented person. Live in your actions. And Jesse is a true testament to that. So, look him up,
Thank you,
check him out.
Michael.
He's and again, one of the things that is so fun about these lives is about doing it with somebody that you enjoy and that has become a friend. And brother, it's been great.
Love you, bro. Thanks
Peace
for your
out.
time.
All right, man. We'll talk
Have a
soon.
great day.
You too. Ciao.
Peace.